What's up, guys? V-Man1313 and welcome to today's video. And this video is all about power. Power. You know, most of us want to run some lights. Most of us want to run maybe a little fan when it's hot. A diesel heater requires a little bit of power. Even though the diesel is what's creating the heat, it still needs a little bit of power. So most of us want to charge our tablets, our phones, our laptops, cameras, things like that. And so I kind of wanted to make this video because, you know, most of us have maybe something small like that. This thing will take care of my cameras and cell phones and stuff like that. I usually have it fully charged before I go out. And yeah, I mean, it's got solar panels on top, lights at the bottom. You can run that thing. I usually leave it on the dashboard and it will, you know, power some small things. Then some of us have our solar panels, flexible, whether hard panels mounted on top, soft panels, foldable panels. And we have those hooked up to some kind of power unit, like this Jackery. So I have a Jackery 500, and for the most part, this Jackery will run everything. It's 500 watts, and so there's not much that I'm trying to run out here that's 500 watts. Usually, if I hit 200 watts, that's a lot. For the most part, 100 to 150 if I'm charging my tablet and charging things like that. Using the AC is always the most non-productive, it's not the best way to really charge your things. You always want to use USB or DC as best as possible. The transferring of battery to AC has a higher loss than going from battery to battery. And so that's usually why you don't really want to use the AC as much as you can. But you know, sometimes you just have to. And so that's what you got. So as far as 500 watts of what I'm trying to power, that's plenty. My problem with the Jackery 500 is that how long it lasts. So what I'm trying to power is not a big deal, but trying to power it all night long or for 3 or 4 or 5 days, that's where I'll run into the problems with the Jackery 500. I can plug it into the solar, but if I'm driving for 12 hours for the day, that solar's not going to do anything. So then I plug it into the Jeep and I can get some power. Let me show you that. So I've been trying to use the SAE. Sorry, I got a mess in here. Things I want to show you, but SAE format, because I'm not really running anything that high powered. And so I have this with a switch that runs from the battery. And as you can see, 37 watts, 34 watts. That's not much. 33 watts, but it is something. And so getting 30 watts into it, it's much better than getting 0 watts into it. And if I drive all day, let's say I'm doing 30 watts an hour, 10 hours, that's 300 watts. So out of a 500 Jackery, 300 watts gets it almost full. So now plug it in solar. I have my panels kind of facing the sun. And as you can see, 39 watts, about the same, a little bit more than the car was doing with a 100-watt panel. Yeah, once again, it would have to sit there for so long to really charge up that Jackery. And so that doesn't really, you know, that doesn't instill. And then if it's raining, if you don't get anything, you've got a problem. So here's the solution that I've come up with, and let me get that out and show you. All right, so here's the solution I've come up with. And you're probably like, Tony, that thing's huge. Yeah, I got a 200 amp hour. For other reasons that I'll talk about in a second, you don't have to get something so big. You could get the 100 amp hour, probably do you just fine. So you're talking about 500 amp hours plus 200 amp hours. Yeah, let me interject here. I knew I was saying it wrong, but I don't know why I kept saying it. This is not 500 amp hour. It's 500 watt hours, like 518 watt hour, 24 amp hour. This is 200 amp hour, but it's 2,500 and something watt hours. So what I was trying to say was my 500 watt hours and my 2,500 watt hours have become now, 5 times as much ability to discharge for longer. I didn't add anything that I could do at one time. I just added longevity, so I can run things for longer periods of time, which was what the problem I was having. Yeah. Crazy, huh? So I went 5 times bigger. I went from 500 to 2,500. And so, yeah, why did I choose that one? The lithium battery that you get doesn't really matter. You pick the one that you feel is best, most value for your setup, and what you wish. But lithium battery is basically what I'm trying to show you that I went with. Now let me show you a couple things with it. So part of the reason I chose this particular one was number one, it came with its own charger. It had its own charger that came with it for the same price as other ones that didn't come with a charger. And so that made it nice to have that they said would go with it. And so I didn't have to worry about what charger I'm going to get to go with it. It brought a charger. They obviously said, yeah, this will work with it. And so that's one of the reasons. The other reason is if you go over here to the side, this is where the charger goes, plugs into there, and then you actually have two 5 volt 2.1 amp USB that you can turn from there, and you can see it turns it on, and you can turn it off from there. And so that's the reasons I went with it. Again, I'm going to talk about the 200 amp hour, why it's such a big one, in a few minutes, but those were the two main reasons, and the price, number 3. And so this was less than $600, right over $500 with the charger, 200 amp hour. It had good reviews, and so that's what I went with. It has the normal big plugs up here. I attached, like I said, I've been trying to stick with an SAE system just so everything works with it. So here is a USB port straight to there if I wanted it. But let me show you what else I can do. So again, with the SAE system, make sure plus is plus, negative is negative. I'll show you why I'm emphasizing that right now. I bought a Jackery plug. It goes into other ones, but this is for my Jackery, and I can plug it straight in, straight from positive and negative through that SAE. And look at this, 83 watts, way higher than the 39, 40 watts that we were getting from the solar power or straight from the Jeep. So yeah, big difference, huh? That's more than twice as fast to charge it. But you say to yourself, but Tony, what about charging that battery? Well, that was the whole reason to get a 200 amp hour, one of the reasons. I can charge this at home before the trip, and truthfully, I don't have to worry about charging it again throughout my trip for the most part. If I don't need to, want to. For a 2 or 3 day trip, this is going to do me way plenty to plug in the fridge, and then some lights and other things, I can plug in to it. Now, I will say this, I bought something else. I bought this little thing. This is a 95 watt DC to DC converter. Your input should be 12 volts, and then it's going to output 19 volts 5 amp max. And so I have not plugged this in yet to the Jackery. This is the very first time I went straight from battery to there, and I'm seeing 82 watts. I don't think I need anything else. Why would I need more? But supposedly this is going to give me 100 watts into the Jackery. And so that's what we're going to try next. All right, so I'm going through here, red to red, making sure, because as you can see, I had to put an adapter. I plugged this in red to red, black to black, and the SAE cord's backwards. So I really needed to put that backwards in there. And then the same thing happened over here. I'm not super familiar as to why that's the way it is. There's got to be a reason, I'm sure. But with the connectors that that come with most of these, you can go there. Now, supposedly, this should give me 100 watts when I plug it in. Let's see what we end up with. Are you serious? 68 watts? It was better straight without using that thing. Yeah, let's try that the other way again. Yeah, it does better straight at it. I must have hit one of my, I was wondering why I was showing output. I had something turned on. Turn it all off. 83 watts going in. Yeah, so I guess I'll return that. It was only $12. So yeah, I'd rather not have it than need it. So yeah, there we go. So straight in from the battery, straight into a Jackery. It's giving me 83 watts. Way more than the car, way more than the solar panel, and I can charge it. Cool. Return that, get rid of that crap. Don't need it. USB if I want an extra one, but now I have my 3 USBs here that if I want to run them, I can run that there. But wait, there's more. So I have my charger. What if, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug everything here. All right, I got my charger plugged in. And like, well, Tony, how are you gonna charge that? Red light means charging. 104, 109. Now, why would I do this, you may ask? At 109 watts, there's not really much I can put into this Jackery that will charge at 109 watts. Except for maybe if I'm at a hotel, if I'm at a campground with battery, with electricity, I mean, I can go ahead and charge this up straight from the Jackery plug, get that charging. Let's see how much that is. All right, goofing off. I'm just having fun today. I have this little inverter that plugs into your cigarette lighter. I'm not sure why. This one says it's 150 watts, but it pops anytime I plug most anything into it. I have this 120 watt, and I ran an extension cord, and here it is with my kilowatt. So I wanted to see, this is the Jackery. Plug in the Jackery, and that's about 96 watts. I don't know if you can see it. It's sideways, I know. And in goes 86 watts. So yeah, 95.8, 86 watts. So that's cool, I can do that. And then let's plug in the battery charger and see what it does. This little thing has a fan that comes on as soon as you plug it in, and it's 90, so under 100 watts to charge. So my point here is you have choices. You know, you have choices, whether it's the solar, whether it's the car battery, whether it's a little inverter like I just plugged in. At 100 watts an hour, you know, if you drive, let's say you drive 10 hours, That's 1,000 watts. That's definitely 5 hours charging this thing at that speed, at the speed of the Jackery. You know, you get some of it. So in conclusion, you want to extend the battery that you have, your power unit that you have. This will work with Blue Eddy. This will work with any of these. Yeah, you might have to get that little converter. You might not. It depends on how much your unit can pull in. And so for the Jackery 500, just straight from battery to there, and it's charging quick. 80 watts, it's actually pretty fast for these things. And so, I mean, that's a little over 5 hours if it ever gets to zero. And again, like I said, I never run these things to zero. And so that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So my thoughts would be to now charge the big boy battery and let the big boy battery charge the little battery. I may do some tests on that and see. The test I would love to do is to 100% fill this up, and then 100% fill this up, and then see how long I can go discharging and charging, discharging and charging. You know, if I'm discharging at less than 80 watts right now, I'm not using this 84%. It's using that battery. And so, yeah, that'll be the next test that I do. We'll see how I can do that one, but that would be kind of cool to know. So how long does it really last? How long will it really last? Obviously, way longer than that thing by itself. And that was the whole point of it. So I hope this video was useful. I hope you got some hints, tips. Hopefully you got something in your brain that maybe you can research yourself. You know, I'm not telling you this is the way to do it. I'm not telling you this is the best way to do it. Definitely not. Obviously, I don't know everything there is to know about this. All I know is that this thing is wonderful. It runs everything I need. It just doesn't run it for a long time. It'll run it for a day or so. I wanted to see what I could do to make it run it for a longer time. And then finally, the other reason why I went with a 200 amp hour, truly why I went with a 200 amp hour, is because if I have a blackout, my house has no lights, no anything. I have a system in there, but this would be great for fun stuff. This would be great to be able to plug in my TV or my laptop and everything else and just keep watching TV and not worry so much about running down my other batteries that are actually running important things like my refrigerator and my freezer. And so, yeah, that was the reasoning for the bigger battery. Sure, it's a monster, but I have a place for it. I'm pretty happy with it. So far, so good. I'll make another video about draining it and charging it and all that good stuff and seeing how that works out. But for now, that's it for today. Hope this helps. V-Man 1313 out.